This is the second part of the video dedicated to understanding why are developing countries still poor. We are looking at the responsibilities of developed countries, especially focusing on food. We saw that Japan has a very low food self-sufficiency, and I'd like to explain the consequences of this situation. To sum up, Japan counts on poorer countries to get food. But in many poorer countries, people don't have enough to eat because they make food for richer countries. That is what I call the export crop hell. Hell is a very strong word, so let me explain why I use it. The fact is, if poor countries didn't have to make our food, the food of developed countries, or at least richer countries, which we call export crop, well, they could also focus on growing their staple crops, that is, make the food they eat every day. But they're so busy making the food that they will export that little attention is paid to their own food. I believe we should try to find a better balance. For the next part, I'd like you to read the story called Export Crops Hell on your worksheet. Please pay attention to what's wrong with Rodrigo's situation. The example is not related to Japan, but to the US, but I believe it explains very well what usually happens. You will share your ideas in class. To help you locate the short paragraph about Rodrigo, it is here on your handout, and please write your ideas here. Again, the main question is, what's wrong with Rodrigo's situation? This being said, if you have any other comments or personal experience you'd like to make a note of, please feel free to do so. Now please read the story of Agnes on your worksheet again. And this time I'd like you to focus on why is her situation better than that of Rodrigo. Again, you will share your ideas in class. The story is located right here at the top of the page, and again you have space to write your ideas. Is there a solution to balance cash crops, or again another way of saying it is export crops, and food for local people? I do believe there is one, and I actually believe it makes a lot of economic sense. So, as far as I'm concerned, I would recommend farmers to produce their own food first. Produce your own food and then produce food for the international market. Change the priorities. As I said, my argument is economic. Think about it. How do you get your food? I sadly cannot produce my own food here in Japan, so I have to buy it with money. Well, farmers in developing countries are now in the same situation. As crazy as this may sound, they're farmers, they're not making their own food. No, they're focusing so much on making the export crops, the cash crops, that they're forgetting about their own food. So they need money to buy the food they don't produce anymore, right? So my next question is, how do they get money? Well, they grow and then they sell cash crops. But, yes, another but, producing cash crops doesn't actually mean you're making much money. And the reason is production costs. They are pretty expensive. Seeds, what you plant in the ground to grow vegetables, to grow cereals, are expensive. Fertilizers, to make the vegetables or the cereals grow faster. Those are also expensive. And the other chemicals farmers may be using. The production costs are pretty high when we talk about cash crops. To summarize, farmers need money to buy the food they don't make anymore, but they don't have that much money because the food they are making now is not something that gives them a high salary, a high paycheck. That's why I believe balance is important. If farmers could balance cash crops and everyday food, the food they eat every day, I believe their life would be a bit easier. I'd like to explain a little bit more about the fact that cash crops don't actually give farmers that much money from another angle, not just the production costs. And the other angle is processing. So farmers in developing, or let's say poorer countries for right now, sell tea leaves, coffee beans, and cut trees. These items are not processed. That means that they cannot be used the way they are. They need to be changed to be used. For instance, farmers sell this, but consumers need the tea leaves to be in that state to be able to drink green tea. The processing, the changes from fresh tea leaves to dried tea leaves is what adds value to these tea leaves. And that is what could help the farmers make more money. But farmers usually don't process the tea leaves themselves, so they lose that money. It is the same situation with coffee beans. This is what they look like on the tree, so the farmers take them off the tree. This is what they look once you've removed the red part. But what we use are roasted beans. And again, the processing involved here is not something the farmers do themselves. So the value of their product isn't as high as once the beans have been roasted, have been processed. And we have a similar situation with wood. So the difference here lies in unprocessed and processed. Farmers, if they could process the products they're selling, they would make more money. The products would be worth more money. Sadly, the number of people and usually machines that are required to process products, again, is expensive. Another cost that most farmers cannot afford. So they cannot do the processing themselves. And they lose the money that goes with it. Another reason why farmers make little money with cash crops is that they actually sometimes lose money growing this type of crops. The reason is cash crops, the price of cash crops tends to fluctuate. And here fluctuate is this little diagram here, right? So it goes down and then all of a sudden up and then down again and back up and kind of up and down again. So the price keeps on going up and down, up and down. It is not stable. It is not the same all the time. It fluctuates. So prices on the international market fluctuates. So when it's low, farmers receive even less money, which means that yes, sometimes they lose money. What can be done? Well, I believe that to fight the problems of unprocessed products, low price, and price fluctuations, everything we've talked about, and also encourage production of staple food, I believe that fair trade is one solution. Not the only one. Let me make that clear. One solution. Fair trade has several benefits. So let me explain them one by one. And the first one is connected to the one I just mentioned regarding the international market's price fluctuating. Well, it's the opposite. If you belong to a fair trade agreement, prices are stable. Right? So when the world or the international market goes down, farmers belonging to a fair trade agreement don't see it or don't feel it because prices are stable. They are promised to be able to sell their products at a price that will cover the cost of sustainable production. So the costs, as we saw, there's more than one. The costs of sustainable production. So that is a major benefit, not losing money when you sell the products you've made. The second benefit is the fair trade premium. So this is money paid on top in addition to the agreed fair trade price. Right, so they have a stable price and on top of it they get extra money. That money is used to improve farmers' means of production. So they often invest that money in people because, as we saw, to process products, usually you need a lot of people, so you need to pay them. And or, depending on what's their priority, also material. So maybe simple machines or better tools as well. So better means of production thanks to the fair trade premium. And they can also and are encouraged to improve the quality of their lives, and that they do by investing the money in education and healthcare. Another major benefit of fair trade is power. And here it's described as a partnership because farmers are actually involved in decisions that affect their future. And they're involved because they actually own the fair trade labeling organizations, which is a non-profit organization. So they own it and they manage it. So instead of being told what to do, they can actually discuss what they want to do. And this shift in power is something that many farmers have shared as being very powerful and helping them become independent and strong. The other positive aspect of fair trade is that everyone wins. This means that it's not just farmers who are benefiting, having a better life thanks to fair trade, but also consumers. Indeed, fair trade products are usually of good quality. In addition, consumers feel when they buy fair trade products, if they understand what fair trade products are, they can have the feeling of helping, of making the world a better place, of helping, eradicating, stopping, removing completely poverty in a sustainable way. And that, to me, is important. Last but not least, the environment also benefits from fair trade. FLOW rewards and encourages environmentally sustainable farming and production practices, which means that they don't only guarantee price and help farmers have a better life, but they also teach them about making their farms eco-friendly, nice to the environment. And last but not least, farmers are encouraged to grow without chemicals and pesticides. They don't necessarily have an organic label as well, but more and more you see these two labels next to each other, fair trade and organic. But this is not systematic. So with fair trade, let me say that again, everyone wins. Fair trade for the planet, for the people. This is the end of the second part of the video and actually the end of the flipped activities for this week. Now I would like you to take some time to reflect. Reflect means think. And what I would like you to do especially is explore. What I mean by explore is to research more information so that you will have several perspectives on the issue of food self-sufficiency. And you will see on your worksheet that as a second thought, I would like you to also research more about fair trade. And I hope you understand that you are more than allowed to disagree. The only thing I ask you to do is to have your arguments ready to disagree so that we can discuss your point of view in class in a thorough and interesting way. And here is the part of the worksheet where you can write down your ideas and the results of your research. Thank you very much.